The sky over Votar turned red as the last defense satellite exploded in silence. From the ground, it looked like a new star had appeared, burning bright, then fading into black dust. The people of Votar watched in horror. Their shield was gone. Their hopes were fading. The Zarkan Empire was coming, and no one could stop them. For weeks, the Votari had begged for help. Messages were sent across the galaxy. They asked the Council of Planets, the Trade Union, even the mercenaries from the Outer Rim. But no one answered. The Zarkan were too strong. Helping Votar meant war, and no one wanted that. So the messages stopped. The Votari leaders gathered in silence. Some wept. Others simply stared at the sky, waiting for the invasion to begin. And then something strange happened. A ship appeared. It wasn't Zarkan. It wasn't sleek or advanced. It looked old, patched with metal, flying like it barely held together. The scanners couldn't even find a name on it. Just one strange signal. Terran vessel approaching. The Votari were confused. Who would send a ship now? Pirates? Scavengers? It was too late for jokes. But as the freighter entered orbit, its comms crackled to life. A voice came through, rough and clear. "This is Commander Reyes of the Terran Rangers. We got your distress signal. Permission to land." The council stared at each other in shock. Terrans. The humans. The stories said they were monsters. Dithworlders. Wild. Dangerous. But those were just old stories, right? No one had seen a real human in decades. Still, they had no choice. They gave permission to land. What could one old ship do against the Zarkan? The freighter dropped like a stone, cutting through the thick clouds of Votar's upper atmosphere. It didn't slow until the last moment, kicking up dust and debris as it slammed into the landing field near the capital. The hatch opened with a hiss. For a moment, there was only smoke. Then he stepped out. He wore heavy black armor, scratched and scorched. A glowing red visor covered his face. He held a large rifle, bigger than any Votari had ever seen. Behind him, 9 more figures followed, silent, deadly, calm. The lead human looked around. The air was tense. Votari soldiers raised their weapons nervously. Civilians watched from behind ruins. Children peeked from windows. The human said just one word: secure. His squad moved quickly. They spread out, scanning the area, checking corners, setting up defense points. They didn't ask questions. They didn't talk much. Every move was like a drill. Perfect. Efficient. Cold. The Votari commander, General Salin, approached Reyes. He was a tall, proud man, but now tired and desperate. "There are only 10 of you," he said quietly. "You saw what's coming. Why are you here?" Reyes looked at him for a long time, then finally replied, "Because someone has to be." In the distance, the ground shook. The Zarkan had landed their first dropships. Massive black towers fell from the sky, releasing waves of armored troops. The city was only hours away from being overrun. The humans didn't wait. Reyes called in a strike drone. It flew fast, low and silent. Then the first explosion hit. The sky lit up again, but this time, it wasn't Zarkan fire. It was Terran thunder. The humans attacked with speed the Votari had never seen. They moved like shadows, using smoke and debris as cover. Each shot from their rifles hit a target. No wasted bullets. No wasted time. The Zarkan soldiers, used to facing weaker prey, were shocked. They expected fear. They found fury. Screams echoed in the night, not from the Votari, but from the invaders. People in the city began to hope again. They came out from hiding. They watched from rooftops and windows as the humans pushed back. Some cried. Others cheered. The humans didn't stop. They just kept moving. By sunrise, the edge of the city was clear. Reyes stood atop a broken Zarkan tank, looking down the valley where more ships would come. He didn't celebrate. He just reloaded his weapon and said into his comm, "Phase 1 complete. Expect heavy pushback. Let's make it hurt." General Salin approached him again, this time with respect in his eyes. "You really are from Earth?" he asked. Reyes nodded. "Born on Mars, trained on Earth, sent to Hell and back." Salin looked out over the ruined city. "Why help us?" Reyes didn't answer right away. He watched a Vatari mother hugging her child. Then he said, "Because we remember what it's like when no one comes." Far above, more Zarkan ships entered orbit. The war had only begun. But for the first time in weeks, the Vatari believed they had a chance. Because 10 humans had landed. And the galaxy was about to learn what that meant. The ground was still smoking from the battle last night. Broken pieces of Zarkan armor lay scattered across the streets. Fires burned in the distance, but the people of Vatar no longer hid in fear. They stared in shock, watching the strange humans move through the ruins like ghosts. Commander Reyes stood in the middle of the street, his boots black with ash and blood. His armor was scratched and scorched, but he didn't slow down. Around him, his squad checked their weapons, marked targets, and updated their map. They didn't speak much. They didn't need to. Reyes looked down at his wrist display. "Enemy movement, South Road. Heavy infantry. ETA 5 minutes, he said calmly. Corporal Vega, the team's sniper, climbed onto a nearby building. "I've got eyes." "Setting up now," she said. The Vatari commander, General Salin, was still trying to understand what he was seeing. "That's a full Zarkan war unit heading this way. You need more troops. We should retreat to the inner city," he warned. Reyes shook his head. "We hold this line." Salin frowned. "But there are only 10 of you." Reyes looked him in the eyes. "Then it won't be a long fight." The Zarkan troops came into view, huge, armored, and full of confidence. Their leader laughed when he saw the humans. "Only 10. What fools sent you?" he shouted in his deep voice. Reyes didn't reply. He simply raised his rifle. The first shot came from Vega. A Zarkan officer's head snapped back as he fell. The others roared and charged. That's when the humans opened fire. The air exploded with sound. Human weapons were different, fast, loud, and brutal. Each shot cut through Zarkan armor like it was paper. The Terran squad moved like water, smooth, perfect, deadly. While the Zarkan shouted and fired wildly, the humans picked their targets one by one. Sergeant Knox tossed a grenade into a group of charging warriors. The blast sent them flying. 3 down, he said without emotion. Private Lynn moved in close, using smoke grenades to hide her path. She came out of the mist behind 2 Zarkan troops and took them down with silent shots. Then she vanished again. The Vatari watched from the rooftops, eyes wide. They had never seen fighting like this. The humans didn't just fight. They hunted. Within minutes, the Zarkan unit was broken. Bodies covered the road. The survivors ran back, yelling in panic. One of them screamed, "They don't die. They don't stop." Reyes didn't chase them. He gave the signal to hold position. His team reset, checked weapons, and scanned the area. It was like nothing had happened. No celebration. No fear. Salin stepped forward, speechless. They had more men, better armor. How? How did you beat them? Reyes gave a tired smile. They had more numbers. We had better training. A young Vatari child came running from a building, holding a piece of broken metal. She ran up to Reyes and pointed to his armor. "Are you really human?" she asked. Reyes looked at her and knelt down. He took off his helmet. His face was rough, scared, and tired, but kind. "Yeah, kid, I'm human." She stared at him in awe. "You're not like the stories. They say humans are wild and scary." He laughed softly. "Sometimes we are, but not today." More Zarkan dropships were spotted on the horizon. Reyes stood up and put his helmet back on. "They're coming again. Bigger force this time." Salin looked worried. You can't hold them off forever. Reyes turned to him. I don't need to. I just need to hold them long enough. Long enough for what? Salin asked. Reyes tapped his command. This is Reyes. Send the next wave. I'm marking landing zones. A voice answered. Copy that. Dropships inbound. ETA, 15 minutes. The Vateri looked up to the sky. They had thought the humans were alone. But now they realized this was just the beginning. The people gathered near the edge of the city, watching the human squad prepare for the next wave. Reyes gave orders calmly, clearly. He wasn't afraid. He had seen worse. He had lived through hell. And now he was bringing it to the Zarkon. For the first time in days, the people of Votar felt something strong in their hearts. Not just hope, faith. They had seen the boots hit the ground. They had seen the Zarkon run. And they knew now. The war had truly begun. The Zarkon were confused. They had taken hundreds of planets without much effort. Most species were weak. They would surrender once the first city fell. But Vatar was different now. Something had changed. Something had arrived. The humans. At first, the Zarkon laughed. 10 Terran soldiers. A joke. But now, 2 full squads of Zarkon warriors were gone. Their commanders didn't respond. Their armor was found torn apart. The few survivors spoke of shadows, silent death, and fire from nowhere. Zarkon command called for answers. Their general sent more troops, more tanks, more flyers. Crush them, they ordered. Show the Vateri the power of the Empire. But the humans didn't fall. Instead, they struck again, fast and deadly. One moment, a patrol was walking through the ruins. The next, a flash of light, a sharp noise, and silence. Another unit disappeared without warning. Drones caught a brief glimpse of the Terrans moving like ghosts through rubble, striking hard, then vanishing. In a hidden bunker outside the city, a Zarkon commander named Garzel slammed his fist on the table. They are 10. Just 10, he roared. Why can't you stop them? His officers were silent. No one had answers. Garzel grabbed a soldier by the armor. Speak. The soldier's voice trembled. They don't fight like us. They don't fear death. They don't make mistakes. They hunt, like predators. Meanwhile, inside the city, Reyes and his team were moving again. They had taken out 2 supply lines and destroyed a key Zarkon comms relay. Now they were pushing toward the north quarter, where Zarkon reinforcements were expected. Corporal Vega scanned the streets through her scope. Heavy movement. They've brought walkers. Good, Reyes said. Let's make them regret it. Private Lin placed mines along the path. Sergeant Knox set up a trap using leftover Zarkon gear. Everything was done quickly, quietly. The team moved with perfect timing. Every man and woman knew their role. Reyes checked his map. They'll be here in 5. The Vateri resistance fighters watched in amazement. These humans didn't seem afraid at all. General Salin turned to Reyes. Why do they fear you so much? What are you doing that we're not? Reyes didn't look up. He was loading a grenade launcher. Simple. We hit first. We hit hard. And we don't stop. The Zarkon walkers came into view. Big metal monsters, armed with plasma cannons and thick armor. Behind them marched rows of soldiers, confident in their size and power. Then the first explosion hit. A mine blew the leg off the front walker. It fell, crushing 3 soldiers beneath it. Smoke filled the street. The trap was sprung. From the rooftops and ruins, the Terrans attacked. Vega's shots took out the officers. Knox used a launcher to hit the second walker in the fuel cell. Boom! Fire rolled across the street. Lin and 2 others flanked from the side, cutting down those who tried to retreat. Panic spread through the Zarkon ranks. One soldier screamed, "They're everywhere." Another tried to call for help, but Reyes jammed their signals. The Zarkon couldn't see, couldn't hear, couldn't think. They were trained for open war, not this. Not for humans who fought like ghosts in the dark. In less than 10 minutes, the entire Zarkan force was wiped out. Not a single Terran was lost. Back in the bunker, Garzol received the report. His face went pale. He dropped the datapad. "Impossible," he whispered. He turned to his officers. "We are not fighting soldiers. We are fighting monsters." The fear spread. Zarkan soldiers whispered among themselves. Some refused to leave the transports. Others asked to be transferred off-world. They had seen what happened to their friends. They didn't want to be next. On the other side of the battlefield, the Vateri were changing too. For the first time, they believed they could win. The people began to rise. Young fighters joined the humans, learning their tactics. Children painted Terran helmets on their walls. The name Reyes was spoken with awe. At night, the sky burned again as human supply pods dropped into the city. New weapons, food, medical kits, and one message sent from orbit. "The Terran Republic stands with Vatar." Reyes read the message and smiled. He looked at his squad. "We're not alone anymore." The squad nodded. They knew what was coming. More Zarkan, bigger battles. But they also knew something else. The Zarkan were afraid. And fear was the first sign of defeat. The fires of war still burned across Vatar, but something had changed. The people no longer hid in fear. They were fighting back. The Zarkan, once full of pride and power, were now making mistakes. They rushed their attacks. Their lines broke easily, and their soldiers kept looking over their shoulders, as if the shadows were hunting them. Because they were. The Terran Rangers had become a legend. 10 humans who fought like an army. They moved in silence, struck without warning, and disappeared before the smoke cleared. The Vateri called them the Ghost Squad. Children whispered stories about them. Old soldiers prayed to fight beside them. The humans had brought more than guns. They had brought belief. Ray stood on a rooftop with General Salin. Below them, Vateri fighters were training with Terran weapons. Drones hovered above, watching every corner. Sandbags and turrets guarded the streets. "They're learning fast," Salin said, watching his people shoot targets. "They have to," Rise replied. "The next wave will be bigger." He wasn't wrong. Far beyond the mountains, the Zarkan Empire had sent a battle group. Thousands of soldiers, tanks, flyers, and a new general, Kravax the Iron Hand, known for crushing entire cities in days. Zarkan command was angry and embarrassed. Losing to 10 humans and a bunch of rebels was a disgrace. Kravax was sent to end it. Fast. Reyes read the latest intel and shook his head. "They're bringing a death cruiser." Salin looked worried. "That's orbital firepower. They can destroy the whole city." "Only if we let them," Reyes said. "Time to strike first." The Terrans planned a bold mission. Destroy the Zarkan landing zone before Kravax could finish setting up his forces. But it was deep behind enemy lines, protected by drones, turrets, and hundreds of troops. Salin thought the plan was suicide. Reyes only smiled. "Good. That means they won't expect it." At nightfall, the team moved. Reyes led the Ghost Squad through the ruins. Vateri commandos joined them, moving quietly through tunnels and old sewers. The route was dangerous: collapsed walls, poison gas, Zarkan patrols. But the humans didn't slow down. When a patrol crossed their path, Vega silenced them with 2 quick shots. When a drone spotted movement, Lin hacked it mid-flight and crashed it into a Zarkan fuel truck. Boom. No more drone. Finally, they reached the edge of the landing zone. Huge ships sat in rows, unloading tanks and walkers. Zarkan guards marched in tight formations. Spotlights lit the area. In the middle of it all stood Kravax himself, towering, armored, and furious. Reyes studied the zone. Too many for a direct attack. We'll need chaos. Knox grinned and handed him a detonator. "I've got just the thing." Within minutes, the Terrans and Vateri set traps all around the perimeter. Explosives under walkways, hacked fuel lines, EMPs near the drones. Then Reyes gave the signal. The first blast took out the ammo dump. The second hit the drone bay. Fire spread fast. Alarms screamed. Zarkan troops ran in confusion. And then the humans charged. From the smoke came gunfire. Sharp, accurate, deadly. The Voteri followed close behind, using their new training to fight like the Terrans. Together, they hit the Zarkan from all sides. Kravax roared, crushed them. But he was already too late. Lin disabled the anti-air turret. Vega picked off officers one by one. Nox tossed a sticky bomb onto a tank and blew it sky-high. Reyes moved through the chaos like a storm, cutting down enemies with perfect aim. Kravax tried to rally his troops, but no one listened. The fear had returned. By dawn, the landing zone was gone. Fires burned across the field. Wreckage covered the ground. The death cruiser in orbit pulled back, refusing to fire. The humans had won again. Reyes stood over a fallen Zarkan banner and wiped dust off his visor. "Message sent," he said calmly. Salin arrived moments later, speechless. That was impossible. "No," Reyes replied. "It was war, done the right way." Back in the city, the people of Votar cheered. Bells rang. Flags flew. The news spread across the galaxy. Zarkan defeated on Votar. By Terrans. On distant planets, others took notice. Resistance groups sent messages to Earth. Hope was rising. The galaxy had seen the impossible happen. And the Zarkan, they didn't just lose a battle. They lost their fear tactic. They lost control. Because now, they knew. Human boots had hit the ground. And they weren't leaving anytime soon. Kravax the Iron Hand was not used to losing. He had burned cities to the ground. He had watched entire species kneel before him. His name brought fear across star systems. But now, on the planet Votar, he had suffered a defeat. Worse, he had been humiliated. His soldiers spoke in whispers. His officers avoided his eyes. The humans had destroyed his landing zone, killed hundreds of his best troops, and vanished into the night like ghosts. Kravax stood inside his war tent, staring at a holomap. His claws tapped the table slowly. "They think they've won," he growled. "They don't know war. Not yet." He ordered a full lockdown on the city's outer zones. New troops were flown in, fresh, cruel, and angry. He brought war beasts from the deep prisons of Zarkan space. Massive machines crawled across the ground, tearing through trees and buildings. The skies were filled with drones and bombers. Kravax had one goal now: break the humans, crush them in front of the Voteri, make the people of Votar watch as their heroes died. And he had a plan. He captured civilians from the outer villages and used them as bait. When Reyes and his squad heard about it, they went silent. A supply runner brought the report. Kravax took 300 Voteri, women, children, elders. He's using them as shields near the central generator tower. General Salin was furious. He wants us to come for them. It's a trap. Reyes nodded. "Yeah, it is. So we do nothing?" Salin asked. Reyes looked at his team. Every one of them was ready, tired, and angry. "We do what humans do best," he said. "We break the trap." That night, the Ghost Squad moved again. But this time, it wasn't just them. A full unit of Voteri resistance fighters joined the mission. They were no longer scared villagers. They were soldiers now, trained, focused, ready. They had watched the Terrans fight, and now they followed their lead. The prison camp was set up near the generator tower. Zarkan guards patrolled in heavy armor. Searchlights lit the field. Drones buzzed overhead. At the center, the Voteri prisoners sat in cages, too weak to move. Kravax stood high above them, waiting. He wanted Reyes to come. He wanted a fight. He would get one. At exactly midnight, the power went out. The lights blinked. The drones dropped. The searchlights died. Chaos followed. From the shadows came smoke grenades, flash bombs, and then gunfire. Sharp, controlled, deadly. The Ghost Squad hit from the east. The Vateri fighters struck from the south. Zarkan guards shouted orders, but they couldn't see their enemy. Rise moved fast through the camp, breaking locks, pulling civilians to safety. Kravax roared and jumped into the fight. He crushed 2 Vateri fighters under his boot and charged toward Reyes. The ground shook with every step. Reyes turned and faced him. Smaller, slower, but not afraid. Kravax laughed. "You're the one they follow. You're just a man." Reyes lifted his rifle. "Yeah, just a man." They clashed. Kravax swung his blade. Reyes dodged and fired. Sparks flew as metal hit armor. Reyes rolled under the warlord's strike and planted a charge on his back. Boom. Kravax roared in pain but kept coming. He was strong. Reyes was fast. The fight moved through the burning camp as others kept fighting around them. Nox yelled from a rooftop, "Reyes!" Clear shot. Reyes dropped low. Nox fired. The bullet struck Kravax in the eye. The warlord staggered. Reyes rushed forward and slammed a second charge onto his chest. Boom. Kravax fell. The camp went silent. Zarkan troops saw their leader hit the ground, and they ran. The fight was over. Reyes stood over Kravax's broken armor, breathing hard. Salin ran up beside him, eyes wide. "Is he dead?" Reyes looked at the smoking crater where Kravax's body used to be. "He won't be leading any more attacks." The civilians were safe. The generator towers still stood, and the Zarkan had lost their most feared warlord. Back in the city, the people cried tears of joy. Bells rang across Votar. Resistance fighters raised the Terran flag beside their own. They didn't just win a battle. They had killed the symbol of Zarkan power. And across the galaxy, those who lived under Zarkan rule heard the news. They whispered the same words. The humans killed Kravax. Fear changed sides. Now the Zarkan were the ones hiding. And everyone knew this war was no longer about survival. It was about freedom. The war for Vetar was not over yet. Kravax was dead, his army scattered. But the Zarkan Empire wasn't ready to give up. High Command was furious. They had lost one of their strongest generals to a handful of humans and local rebels. So they made a final decision. They sent the Oblivion Lance, a massive Zarkan dreadnought armed with a city-killer cannon. One shot could erase half of Vatar. It didn't need soldiers. It didn't need ground troops. Its purpose was simple: burn everything. The people of Vatar watched the sky with fear as the dark shape of the dreadnought appeared in orbit. It blocked the stars. It was silent, but every person could feel its threat. General Selin looked at Reyes. "We can't stop that. We don't even have ships." Reyes didn't blink. "We don't need ships." Instead, he pointed to a deep valley far outside the city, a secret base hidden before the war began. Inside was something the galaxy hadn't seen in years, not since Earth's darkest wars. A Terran drop weapon. It was old, massive, and dangerous. A relic from humanity's early war machines, left behind, forgotten, until now. "We never meant to use it," Reyes said, "but the galaxy left us no choice." Salin and his officers stared at the machine. It looked like a giant spear with thrusters and warheads wrapped around a hardened alloy core. No guidance system, no fancy tech, just raw destruction. "How will you aim it?" Salin asked. Reyes gave a small smile. "I won't." That night, while the Zarkan dreadnought began charging its main cannon, the humans prepared their final move. Reyes and 2 engineers worked to fix the ancient drop weapon. They wired in power. They adjusted the flight system. It was a one-way strike, no second shot, and it had to hit. In orbit, the Zarkan captain aboard Oblivion Lance spoke to his crew. "Prepare to fire. Burn Vatar. Show the galaxy what happens when they resist us. The cannon lit up, glowing red. It needed just 10 more minutes. Back on the surface, Reyes stood by the launcher. "We're ready." Salen asked one last time. "Are you sure this will work?" "No," Reyes said. "But it's our only shot." He keyed the launch code. With a deafening roar, the drop weapon lifted into the sky. It tore through clouds, shaking the ground below. People across Votar stopped what they were doing and watched the burning streak rise like a comet. Zarkan sensors picked it up too late. "It's moving too fast." One officer yelled aboard the dreadnought. "We can't intercept." Evasive maneuvers. Now. But it was too late. The Terran weapon struck the Oblivion Lance dead center. For a moment, nothing. Then, light. Blinding. Massive. Final. The explosion shattered the dreadnought in space. Fire bloomed in the void. Pieces of Zarkan steel rained into the atmosphere like shooting stars. Cheers rose from every corner of Votar. Even in the ruins, people wept with joy. They had seen the weapon fly. They had watched death fall. And then vanish. Salen turned to Reyes, voice shaking. "You destroyed a dreadnought. From the ground." Reyes wiped soot from his gloves. "That's what happens when you push humans too far." For the first time, Votar was truly free. No more ships in the sky. No more warlords sending threats. No more fear. But the message wasn't just for the Zarkan. It was for everyone. The humans had come with only 10 soldiers. No fleet. No backup. Just skill, will, and an old weapon. And they had changed the course of a planet's history. On distant worlds, other species watched the news. Some laughed. Some cried. Some whispered to each other. The Terrans destroyed a dreadnought. A rebel leader on another planet leaned forward and said, "If they can do it, so can we." Hope spread like fire. The Zarkan Empire, once thought to be unbreakable, was now bleeding. And the blood trail led back to one thing: human boots on the ground. But Reyes knew the war wasn't over. Not yet. He stood on a hill outside the city, watching the sunrise. Knox stood beside him. "We really did it," Knox said. Reyes nodded. "We gave them a chance." "What now?" Reyes looked up at the stars. "Now we see if the galaxy is ready to fight back." Behind them, the Vateri raised a new flag, one stitched with their own colors, and the mark of Earth. Together, Terrans and Vateri, ready for whatever came next. The war on Votar was over, but the fire had only just started. Across the stars, the fall of the Oblivion Lance sent shockwaves through the galaxy. News networks called it impossible. Military leaders called it madness. But rebels, slaves, and hidden fighters on 100 worlds called it something else: hope. If a small group of humans and villagers could destroy a Zarkan dreadnought, then maybe the Empire could bleed. Maybe it could break. Messages poured into Votar. Secret signals. Broadcasts full of static and fear. "Help us. We're ready. What did you do? Teach us." Reyes sat at a simple metal table with General Salen. Around them, the city was rebuilding. People walked freely now. Children laughed again. But the screen in front of them showed a different picture. Images of suffering across Zarkan space. "We can't fight on every world," Salen said. "No," Reyes agreed. "But we can teach others how." One by one, the humans trained the Vateri in more than just weapons. They taught tactics, code-breaking, stealth. They showed how to build bombs from scrap and how to fight in the shadows. They didn't build an army. They built a movement. And that movement began to spread. A moon colony in the Teller system rose up and overran a Zarkan fuel base. On Yakar 3, engineers sabotaged their master's war machines and broadcast human war songs over the speakers. On the icy world of Frask, a farmer's son flew a stolen ship through enemy fire and shouted a name before crashing into a Zarkan cruiser: Reyes. The name had become more than a person. It was a symbol now. But the Zarkon were not done yet. High Command, wounded and humiliated, gathered their remaining forces. 10 fleets, dozens of warlords. One order: crush Vatar. Show no mercy. The humans knew it was coming. Full invasion. Nox asked, reading the intercepted data. Reyes nodded. They're bringing everything. Salen stood firm. Then we fight with everything. The Vatari, once broken and afraid, now prepared like warriors. New bunkers were built. Drones flew in patrol. Snipers took positions. Children delivered ammo. Elders made armor from scrap. Even farmers carried rifles. And just before the first Zarkon fleet arrived, help came. Not from Earth, but from the stars. Ships with strange markings entered orbit. Fighters from Taylor. Bombers from Yakar. One ship even flew the flag of Frask. People who had never met each other had one thing in common. They had seen what humans could do. And they wanted to fight like them. When the Zarkon fleet arrived, they expected a simple battle. One city, one small planet. Instead, they found a rebellion. Missiles struck first. Then came swarms of fast ships from all directions. Vatari ground cannons fired from hidden cliffs. The Ghost Squad moved like lightning, hitting weak points and vanishing again. In space, 100 small ships danced around the Zarkon dreadnoughts. They weren't military craft. They were miners, smugglers, freighters turned into war machines. But they fought with everything they had. One rebel leader yelled into the comms, "For Vatar, for Earth." The battle raged for hours. And then, silence. Zarkon ships began pulling back. One by one, they broke formation. Some even exploded from the inside, sabotaged by their own crews. The Empire's fear tactic had failed again. Rey stood atop the same rooftop where it had all started. Below him, cheers filled the air. Fireworks cracked. People danced. The war for Vatar was not just a victory anymore. It was a message to the galaxy. You don't need fleets. You don't need thousands. You just need a reason. Salen stepped beside him, eyes full of pride. You didn't just save us, he said. You started something bigger. Reyes looked out over the crowd. We were never meant to rule. We came to help you stand. And now you have. Behind him, the Terran flag flew next to the new banner of Free Vatar. 2 worlds, side by side. Later that night, Nox asked him, "So, are we done?" Reyes smiled. "No, we've just begun." Because now the galaxy had seen it with their own eyes. When human boots hit the ground, tyrants fall, empires shake, and the people rise.